Welcome back, everybody. Michael O'Connor here, Doctor of Physical Therapy. Today I'm going to be reviewing another shoulder strengthening exercise. This is called shoulder external rotation. And to me, it's one of the most important shoulder strengthening exercises because it involves one of the primary rotator cuff muscles called your infraspinatus. The infraspinatus does two major things. It provides external or outward rotation of our humerus, our upper arm bone. It also provides what's called glenohumeral stabilization. That simply means it keeps the ball of your shoulder in the cup, particularly while you're moving your arm. So it's super important to make sure this exercise is done correctly and it will help your shoulder health. Make sure you're warmed up and stretched before you do the strengthening exercises. So take a look at my other videos on the shoulder flexion stretch, the pec stretch, and the hand behind the back stretch. And one other thing to note, there's a lot of discussion on the internet that external rotation with resistance band exercises, the one I'm about to show you, may not be necessary or it's not important. As a physical therapist, what I found is that people don't have a good foundational strengthening base for their shoulder joint. And many people that were coming into my practice injured and inflamed were often lifting weights or functionally moving with weight in their hands overhead. And they didn't have the foundational strength of their elbow by their side with rotation. So, in my opinion, this is a critical foundational exercise to accomplish and master. I agree. Our lives are not spent with our elbows by our side. Function requires us to move away from the body, but it's super important to get this foundational strength achieved so that over time we can begin to have the elbow come away from the body and continue our strengthening in the more challenging positions. So, my recommendation is to master this exercise. Let's take a look at the details. I use a towel roll. You'll see it right here, down low, right near my elbow by my side. This is a trick I learned years ago. It's an excellent feedback mechanism because you want your elbow to be by your side throughout the rotational part of this exercise. And often the elbow will drift away. If you hold a towel roll there and your elbow drifts away, the towel roll will end up on the floor. So it's a great feedback mechanism. And I recommend you use that just so you know you're in good alignment. We take the elastic bands. The other thing I like to do is I like to kind of take my thumb and just hold it on my belt line there. It's kind of anchoring my hand. We're strength training the right shoulder in this exercise. My left arm is basically the anchor for the other part of the band. So it's just a comfort thing that I like to do. You don't have to hook your thumb into your belt line, but make sure that left hand stays by your side when you're doing this exercise. Once again, we want to focus on keeping the forearm parallel to the floor and in line with the band. Remember, we talked about the concentric in other exercise videos. When we're pulling the resistance, that is a concentric phase. When you're doing the concentric part, it should take you about 2 seconds to pull the band outward. The eccentric is the controlled lengthening of the same muscle. That should take maybe 3 or 4 seconds. So concentric, 2 seconds, a little pause on the outside, controlled eccentric. Remember to work both parts of that exercise. Couple strengthening parameters. Remember, as we've done with other strength training exercises, if you are new with this exercise and you haven't done it before, start with 2 sets of 8. Just keep it simple and try to get 3 times in a week for this exercise. Slow and controlled in both directions is super important for strength training benefits. Once your 2 sets of 8 becomes a little easy, then you can progress it to 2 sets of 10, 2 sets of 12, eventually working up to maybe 2 to 3 sets of 12 to 15. If you're doing 3 sets of 12 or 15 and it becomes easy, then you know it's time for you to increase the resistance for this exercise. One of the things you want to ask yourself whenever we're exercising is, what do I feel? What am I supposed to feel? On this exercise, you should feel the top part of the shoulder on the back side of the shoulder blade. That's the infraspinatus muscle that is going to burn quite a bit during this exercise. It's an isolator, so it's a great exercise. This example here, some things to avoid. You can see I'm side bent, my head's forward. I'm completely out of neutral spine position again. So maintain neutral spine position because that's how your body's going to get strong. In this example here, and you'll see this a lot with too much resistance being used, the torso is rotating. Your core can pull against these bands much easier than that small muscle. So don't let your body rotate during this exercise. You should maintain frontal alignment. On the next example, and we talked about this with the low row as well. In this picture above, you can see my elbow is bending. That's going to make me isolate my bicep muscle, and again, will not isolate my main rotator cuff muscle I'm trying to isolate here. On the bottom example, my elbow has gotten too straight, so I'm drawing in my tricep muscle. Again, too much bend or too much extension in your elbow, and you're not going to isolate your rotator cuff stabilizers. Another thing we frequently see is a loss of neutral wrist position. Wrist neutral is when it is in ideal alignment like this. Throughout this exercise, you should be able to maintain that neutral position right there. You can see there's a bend here, and I did a couple close-ups for you. Way too much flexion in this exercise. That will irritate your forearm muscles. In this one, way too much extension. And again, it can irritate your forearm and possibly other parts of the forearm muscles. So maintain neutral wrist position throughout this exercise. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this very important shoulder external rotation exercise. Remember, for this exercise, it's more important to keep the weight very light and work the full range of motion. And as you get stronger, you can slowly bring the elbow away from your side, and that will obviously help overall function, as we mentioned, for overhead lifting and reaching away from the body. Please leave me a comment. Let me know how you're enjoying these videos. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. If you need further help or would like to work with me on a more personal basis, take a look at the description below and see how I work individually one-on-one with people. I'd be glad to help you if I can, and take a look at my website as well. There's lots of information and free resources there for you. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.